She thought secrets rotted in the shadows until he turned them into dynamite. Secrets explode louder than gunshots, and revenge is more beautiful than love. Don't miss the ending. There's a lesson waiting there that will make your blood run cold. The first fisher appeared on an unremarkable Thursday. I remember the quality of the light that afternoon, pale and watery, as if the sun itself had grown disinterested in the world. My wife, Clara, stood at the kitchen island slicing bell peppers with a surgeon's precision, her auburn hair catching the weak glare of the overhead pendant lights. For 12 years, I'd watched her perform this ritual. The exacting angles of the knife, the way she nudged discarded stems into a neat pile with her thumb. But that day, her movements seemed rehearsed, like a dancer repeating steps long after the music had stopped. It began with her phone. She'd always been careless with it, left charging on the bathroom counter, buzzing lazily during dinner, its glow a third guest at our table. But now it never left her pocket. When she cooked, it sat screen down on the marble, a silent sentinel. When she slept, it migrated beneath her pillow, its charger snaking across her nightstand like a vein. I told myself it was nothing. Paranoia, I reasoned, was the tax levied by a decade of marriage, the mind's petty rebellion against contentment. Then came the receipts. I found the first one in her winter coat while searching for Finn's leash. The coat hung in the back of the hall closet, unworn since March, its wool sleeves still faintly holding the scent of last year's snow. The slip of paper was crumpled in the left pocket, edges softened by friction. The Belmont Suites. A downtown hotel with a rooftop bar we'd once joked was for adulterers and salesmen. The date: October 12th. A Thursday. The total: $387.50. My fingers lingered on the embossed numbers as if they might rearrange themselves under my touch. That night, I lay awake, Finn's muzzle pressed to my shin, and dissected the memory of that week. Clara had attended a marketing summit, a phrase she delivered with air quotes and an eye roll. Corporate nonsense, she'd sighed, packing her navy blazer. We'll order takeout when I'm back. But she hadn't come home until midnight, her cheeks flushed, claiming the Uber driver got lost. For days, I rationed the doubt. Hotels hosted conferences. Coats accumulated debris. Yet the seed had been planted, its roots threading through every interaction. I noticed new details. The faint citrus cologne that clung to her scarves, the way she angled her body away from me when texting, thumb flying across the screen. She'd taken up evening yoga, she said, though her mat remained rolled and dustless in the trunk of her car. Once, while she showered, I opened her laptop, password unchanged, a relic of trust, and found the browser history wiped cleaner than bone. The unraveling accelerated. I became an archivist of our decay. Late nights hunched over credit card statements revealed charges for restaurants I'd never heard of: Lou, Jardin Noir, The Velvet Hour, their names slick with pretension. Her location history, once a tapestry of predictable routes, now spiderwebbed across the city. A boutique hotel in the East Quarter, a parking garage 3 blocks from her office, a condo complex near the river with balconies that jutted like broken teeth. I mapped these coordinates with a realtor's precision, each pin a fresh lesion. The photos arrived on a rain-slick Tuesday. Our shared cloud storage, once a mosaic of Finn's antics and half-finished home projects, now housed a second album. Untitled, unshared. In it, Clara smiled at the camera, wearing a lace camisole the color of smoke, her collarbone dusted with something shimmering. The timestamp read 2:14 a.m., the night of the marketing summit. The bed behind her was unfamiliar, a tufted leather headboard, a painting of abstract waves above it. My hands shook as I zoomed in, searching for reflections in the gilded mirror behind her. A sliver of a man's shoulder, pale and broad, disappeared at the edge of the frame. That night, I burned the chicken parmesan. She pushed the charred edges around her plate, complaining of a migraine. I studied the slope of her neck, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear, a gesture I'd once found endearing, now freighted with secrets. Finn whined at my feet, sensing the tectonic shift. Sleep became a foreign country. I'd lie rigid beside her, tracking the intervals between her breaths, while my mind replayed the digital breadcrumbs. The hotel receipts multiplied in my desk drawer, paper tombstones marking the death of our ordinary lives. Her phone, ever vigilant, pulsed with notifications she'd swipe away before the screen fully lit. One midnight, driven by a feverish compulsion, I followed her. She left at 1:03 a.m., claiming a coworker's emergency. I waited 9 minutes, a random number, though it felt significant, then tailed her Prius through streets glazed by rain. The condo complex rose like a specter, its windows mostly dark. She parked in the visitor lot, smooth and practiced, and vanished into Unit 14B. I sat in my truck, windshield wipers thumping a dirge, until dawn bleached the sky. When she returned, her clothes were rumpled, her smile brittle. "Everything's fine," she said, kissing my cheek. Her lips tasted like mint and betrayal. The next morning, I called in sick. While she showered, I combed through her jewelry box. A sapphire pendant I didn't recognize lay coiled beneath her grandmother's pearls. Its chain was delicate, expensive. I held it to the light, watching blue shards dance across the wall, and understood. This was not a gift meant for a wife. Methodically, I began to document. Spreadsheets cataloged inconsistencies, unaccounted hours, mysterious charges, the GPS coordinates I cross-referenced with property records. A burner phone purchased at a CVS became my ledger, filled with photos of receipts, screenshots of deleted texts recovered through iCloud backups. I learned to mirror her devices, to navigate VPNs, to follow digital exhaust trails. The more I uncovered, the calmer I grew. Grief, I discovered, could be alchemized into purpose. By December, I knew his name. Eric Halloran. 34, divorced, a junior partner at her firm. His Instagram, private but not to a determined stranger, revealed a man curated for midlife escapism. Rock climbing in Patagonia, a vintage Porsche, a rescue pit bull posed artfully on granite countertops. Clara appeared nowhere in his feed, but the clues were there. A wristwatch identical to one she'd found at a flea market, a hotel lobby mirror reflecting a sliver of green dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. The final piece came via a keylogger installed during her yoga class. Her email, porous as a sieve, yielded reservations at the Belmont every Thursday at 1 p.m. Room 214. Paid in cash. On Christmas Eve, as she wrapped gifts labeled to my love, I sipped bourbon by the fire and studied the dossier I'd compiled. Finn rested his head on my knee, his breath warm through my jeans. Outside, snow smothered the world, erasing footprints, fences, boundaries. Clara hummed along to a carol, her voice bright as tinsel. I closed my eyes and began to plan. The anger, when it came, was glacial, a slow, implacable force. Not the scream of shattered glass, but the silent fracture spreading beneath a frozen lake. She'd taken more than vows, she'd rewritten our history, reduced our years to props in someone else's fantasy. But revenge, I knew, wasn't about rage. It was about restoration. By New Year's, the outline was clear. Meticulous, deniable, elegant. A script only I would see to its final act. Let her have her lies. I'd write the ending. Revenge, I decided, would not be a wildfire but a controlled burn, precise, patient, and utterly devoid of mercy. The blueprint took shape in the quiet hours between midnight and dawn, sketched in the glow of my laptop as Finn snored softly at my feet. Clara's absence during her Thursday yoga sessions became my alibi, her predictability a gift. While she whispered lies to Eric in room 214, I dissected their world molecule by molecule. It began with Eric's ex-wife. Lila Halloran's LinkedIn profile painted her as a woman unafraid of scorched earth, CPA, marathon runner, mother of twins. Her divorce settlement, buried in public records, revealed Eric's talent for hiding assets. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, a shell company named Velvet Horizon Holdings, a vintage Porsche registered under his brother's name. I composed an anonymous email attaching screenshots of Eric's Venmo transactions to Clara, dinner at Le Jardin Noir, Belmont Suites, 1 p.m., and a single question. Care to collaborate? Lila replied within hours. Her tone was clinical, her rage crystalline. We met once in a library study room that smelled of old paper and disinfectant. She wore a charcoal pantsuit and carried a leather folio thick with documents. No pleasantries. No names. Just a USB drive slid across the table, its contents a trove of Eric's financial sins, forged signatures, inflated invoices, a trail of embezzlement leading straight to his desk. Make it hurt, she said, though her lips never moved. The next phase required a surgeon's touch. I created a shadow email account, mirroring Eric's corporate address down to the pixel. Over weeks, I drafted dummy messages, benign at first, then laced with coded references to client incentives and off-book agreements. These I sprinkled into his sent folder during his Thursday absences, timed to coincide with Clara's stolen hours. The hotel's Wi-Fi, laughably unsecured, became my conduit. Meanwhile, I curated Clara's descent. A fake wellness newsletter in her inbox linked to articles about guilt-induced insomnia. A misdirected flower delivery, White Lily's funeral adjacent, arrived with a note. Thinking of you. E. I watched her unravel in real time. Bitten cuticles skipped meals, the way she'd jump at Finn's bark. Her phone, now a tether to paranoia, buzzed endlessly. Eric's name flashed like a distress signal. The Belmont's concierge, a gaunt man with a nicotine stain on his index finger, proved susceptible to a different currency. $5,000 in cash, delivered in a Barnes & Noble gift bag, bought me access to the security archives. The footage was grainy but damning. Clara and Eric, blurred but unmistakable, slipping into elevators, laughing in the lobby, her hand brushing his lower back. I copied the files, then scrubbed the originals. Let them wonder, later, how the evidence vanished. By February, the stage was set. Eric's offshore accounts began to hemorrhage. Lila, armed with forged wire transfer records, tipped off the IRS. His emails, now laced with enough plausible deniability to sink a class action lawsuit, were leaked to the firm's compliance officer. I watched his LinkedIn status flicker from open to work to employed to blankness. Clara, ever the opportunist, began to distance herself. Her Thursday absences dwindled. She took up knitting, of all things, a hobby requiring focus, repentance, the illusion of domesticity. I noted the half-finished scarves piled on her nightstand, the way she'd pause mid-stitch to stare at her silence phone. The final touch was aesthetic. At a pawn shop downtown, I purchased a Rolex Submariner, fake but convincing under scrutiny. Its serial number matched one from Eric's Instagram post. I planted it in Clara's glove box, nestled beneath expired insurance cards. When she found it, her face cycled through fear, recognition, and something akin to grief. She hid it in her jewelry box next to the sapphire pendant. On the eve of the firm's annual gala, I press my suit and polish my shoes. Clara dressed carefully, her reflection a stranger in the bedroom mirror. The emerald gown she chose was a miscalculation, too bold, too reminiscent of the woman in the hotel photos. I adjusted her necklace, my fingers grazing the hollow of her throat. "You look perfect," I said. Her smile fractured. The gala unfolded as scripted. Ballroom chandeliers cast honeyed light on champagne flutes and hollow laughter. Eric arrived late, his tuxedo rumpled, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Clara stiffened when he entered but didn't approach. At 9:07 p.m., the screens flanking the CEO's podium flickered. The crowd murmured as corporate slides dissolved into security footage, Eric's Audi idling at the Belmont, time-stamped Thursdays stacked like dominoes. A collective inhale. Then Lila's voice, amplified and ice-cold, detailing his financial betrayals. Clara's glass shattered. Red wine pooled at her feet, like blood. I stood motionless, a statue of marital concern, as chaos metastasized. Eric's face drained of color. The CEO's neck veins bulged. Security materialized, their hands heavy on Eric's shoulders. Clara backed toward the exit, her heels slipping on marble. In the parking lot, she collapsed against our car, trembling. "Did you?" she began, but I cut her off with a look. Let the silence accuse. Let the unspoken fester. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months. Finn curled against me, his breath steady. Clara's side of the bed remained empty, the sheets cold. By dawn, her suitcase sat by the door. The aftermath unfolded with the quiet inevitability of a condemned building collapsing inward. Clara left at dawn, her suitcase wheels scraping against the driveway gravel like a dull blade. I watched from the bedroom window, Finn pressed against my leg, his low growl a requiem for her departure. She didn't look back. The emerald dress, crumpled in the corner of our closet, became a relic, a shroud for the marriage we'd buried. Eric's ruin was swift and absolute. By noon, his name trended on LinkedIn, a cautionary tale spliced between layoff notices and corporate platitudes. His Porsche, repossessed overnight, left an oil stain on the condo complex's pristine asphalt. The pit bull, loyal to the end, sat howling outside Unit 14B until animal control arrived. Lila, ever efficient, forwarded me the foreclosure notice with a single-word subject line. Done. Clara's attempts at damage control were pathetic. She moved into a studio above a Thai restaurant, its walls vibrating with bass from the karaoke bar below. Her Instagram, once a curated gallery of our vacations and farmers market bouquets, devolved into cryptic quotes about rebirth and toxic cycles. She dyed her hair black as if mourning herself. I tracked it all: the Zillow listings for cheaper apartments, the late-night Uber Eats orders, the job applications to firms 3 states away. Her desperation had a rhythm, a staccato pulse of panic. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday, delivered by a process server with a coffee stain on his tie. Clara contested nothing. She signed in looping script, her initials bleeding ink at the margins. The house, the savings account, Finn, all mine. Her lawyer, a harried woman with toddler stickers on her briefcase, cited irreconcilable differences. I almost laughed. I sold the house. Not out of necessity, but symbolism. The closing date coincided with our anniversary. The new owners, a young couple with a baby on the way, gushed about the good energy in the master bedroom. I let them keep the furniture. Finn and I moved into a loft downtown, its industrial bones echoing with the clatter of trains passing below. I took up woodworking, building a walnut desk to replace the one where I'd plotted Clara's undoing. The USB drive lived in its top drawer, a cold talisman. Some nights, I'd slide it into my laptop and watch the Belmont footage, not with anger, but the detached curiosity of an entomologist studying a pinned specimen. Clara's reckoning came in autumn. A forwarded email from her new employer, a mid-tier marketing agency, landed in my inbox. Attached was her resignation letter, citing personal reasons. I'd planted the seed months prior. An anonymous tip to HR about her history of ethical lapses, accompanied by screenshots of her Venmo history with Eric. She lasted 6 weeks. The last time I saw her, she was standing in line at a pawn shop, clutching a velvet box. The sapphire pendant glinted under fluorescent lights as the clerk offered her $150. She hesitated, her finger tracing the chain, then nodded. Outside, rain blurred the sidewalk into a watercolor smear. She didn't see me across the street, collar upturned, Finn's leash wrapped snug around my wrist. Eric vanished. Rumors placed him in Boise, then Tampa, then nowhere. Lila sent a Christmas card, a photo of her twins sledding, their scarves bright against the snow. "Thank you," she'd written in gold ink. I burned it. By spring, the loft smelled of sawdust and lemon oil. Finn developed a habit of sleeping beneath the walnut desk, his breath fogging the drawer where the USB lay. I dated sparingly a gallery curator, a paramedic, a woman who bred Persian cats. None lasted. Trust, I found, had ossified into a fossil, something to examine, not revive. Clara's mother called once. Her voice, thin and crackling, asked if I'd seen her. "She's not well," she said. "She talks about you." I pictured Clara in some rented room, surrounded by takeout containers and unsent letters, the walls closing in. I said nothing. Let her mother haunt her. The final thread snapped on a windless August night. A notification buzzed. Clara's cloud account, still linked to mine, uploaded a single photo. A positive pregnancy test, captioned "New Chapter." The timestamp matched a clinic visit she'd made weeks prior. For a moment, the old fury surged, hot and familiar. Then I noticed the details. The chipped nail polish, the peeling linoleum, the Walmart brand test. Desperation, not joy, screamed from every pixel. I deleted the photo. Blocked her account. Poured a finger of bourbon and toasted the empty loft. Finn knows my hand, his tail thumping once. In the end, the victory was quieter than I'd imagined. No grand confrontation, no cathartic showdown, just the slow erosion of a life built on lies. Clara became a ghost, her existence reduced to digital debris. A dormant Facebook profile, a Yelp review for the Thai restaurant, a parking ticket left unpaid. I kept the USB. Not as a trophy, but a reminder. Love, when weaponized, is the sharpest tool. Some nights, when the trains rattle the windows, I open the drawer and trace its edges. The rage is gone. What remains is colder, clearer, a lesson etched in bone. Finn ages. The loft gathers dust. The city breathes on indifferent. And I sleep just fine. One story may be ending, but the excitement never stops. Don't wait. Jump right into the next one and keep the thrill alive.